Hello everybody. Welcome to a little quick introduction into Python methods. So first things first, we get our idle shell here and make a new file. There we go. Now, methods for Python start off with the def, D-E-F, or definition. Let's just make a very simple one here. So there we go. So, and you'll see it changes color. I'll just call it prints. Something along the lines of that. Oh, and of course we've got to save it. So we'll just call this intro methods. There we go. Now, the first thing you're going to note is nothing happens. And the reason nothing happens is when I create a function or method, in this, well, I named it method, but methods are what they typically are called in Java. Functions are what they would be called in most other places, but when you create it, it's a separate little area of code. Now, it doesn't get run unless you say for it to run. So, for example, if I were to say print booger, for example, you'll see it prints that word. Now, it's not running this because I didn't tell it to run. This right here is considered pretty much wholly separate than the rest. So if I were to come out here and say prints, now I've told it to run. So it's going to run it. Like so. Now, functions, methods are used to, whenever you're going to do something you're going to do repeatedly. I can just do this multiple times and it'll run it more than one time. So there we go. Like so. So it's a separate little area where I can put code, and it could be, a couple of lines or hundreds or thousands of lines. But it's typically going to be something you're going to use over and over again. The benefits, one, it separates out the code, so if there is an error or a problem, you can go to that specific place where the error is. Instead of having everything just all in one area, and you just have to kind of go through hundreds of lines to figure it out, it's a little easier to debug and figure out what the problem is. And of course, it saves space, typically. If I want to do a function or find the biggest number of something or print a map on the screen, I might do that dozens, hundreds of times in a game or a program. And I don't want to repeat that code over and over and over again every time I call it in every single place. I want to just say print, map, whatever it is I want to do. And I can do it all with one word. One of the reasons it's one of the more powerful things you can do in a program is, well, I can run literally thousands of lines of code with a single word. And then it runs. You can give it different things. You can retrieve things from it once it's done doing calculations and all that stuff. You can have as many methods as you want, or functions. I'm probably going to use the word methods a fair bit. I'm used to Java a little more than Python, but it always starts the same. Def, and then I'll just call this add or something. And if I don't give it anything, I just leave it like that. If I want to give it a value or something, let's just say number, I could do that. And then I could say, print number plus 10, let's say. So now, in this particular case, I say add, and I have to give it something. If I just don't give it anything, you'll get an error. Look a little something like this. It is waiting for an argument number. The things that you pass it are usually called arguments. So I have to give it something. In this case, I'll give it 9,000. Then I'll run it. And what you should see is 9,010, because 9,000 plus 10 is 10. So it takes this 9,000, passes it, which is a phrase you use when you're talking about what it gives to this method here. This right here becomes 9,000. And then, poof, 9,000 plus 10, it prints it, 9,010. This would be what you would call your basic passing just one value. And I could pass multiple values. It doesn't have to be just one, you know, number 2. I could give it multiple things here instead of just one. Now, it doesn't, in Python, you don't specify what that value is. You don't say it is an integer or it is a, you know, string or it is this. Whatever you pass, that's just happens to be what it is. So that could lead to an issue where I did something like that, maybe. And of course, it crashes because Bob plus 10 doesn't work. So, but you'll see it did do the previous one. So just keep that in mind. You probably want some checks or something in there, you know, to make sure that it is a number if you're trying to do numerical things. We could also always force it to be a number with the cast. But that's the general setup as far as just quick introductory to methods. I usually almost always put them at the top. As far as Python is concerned, if I let's just say cut that and put it down here, let's see what happens. Well, clearly it's not very happy with it. In Java, C++, C#, it actually doesn't care kind of where you put it. But in this particular thing, what we're doing, it kind of does. So generally, you would define everything up here, variables, whatever. And then down here would be kind of like, if you compare it to Java, your main, your section that's going to run later. And that's kind of your quick little introduction into how functions and stuff work.